Pop Warner Football. If you've not heard, Pop Warner Football has made a change in order to make the game safer. Good idea, bad idea. In its youngest 3 divisions, which gets ages 5 to 7, 7 to 9, and 8 to 10, there will no longer be 3-point stance. I guess that'll make it easier for the people who don't understand football to coach it. What's a 3-point stance? I don't know. And they won't know till they're 11 years old now, according to Pop Warner Football. They're going to remove the 3-point stance. The kids will no longer be allowed to put their hand on the ground. Think about that for a second. No longer allowed to get in a 3-point stance. Now at least they can squat down. At least they can squat down. They can get into a modified squat position, James. But the whole point, it's like taking things, like basketball is about angles. And football is about leverage. And part of the way you gain leverage is who can get out of their stance the fastest. I don't know. What's your thoughts? Here's Mr. John Butler's thoughts. We believe this change is another step in creating a safer, better football experience for young people. That's what flag football is for. No, I'm just kidding. By moving away from the 3-point stance at our youngest levels, we're changing how players are introduced to the sport and how they learn to play the game. Well, they're not learning how to play the game. They're learning a version of the game. I guess my thing is, it's one thing. How many injuries have we seen? If you go back through the history, they got rid of kickoffs and they're getting rid of kickoffs and they're changing. How many injuries did we really see in kickoff coverage and kickoff return?
Martin, I don't remember hearing that many injuries on kickoff.
I mean, when you think about it, I'm trying to think. In my time of watching Alabama since I graduated, I really don't remember a lot of guys having to be carted off. So I keep hearing this. We're making football safer. We're making football safer. We're making football safer. Well, stop playing football. I mean, if you keep changing things, you're going to change the fundamental basis of the sport. Because what you're going to have now is you're going to have a group of kids who learn how to play football, but it's not the football that they're going to play when they get older. Why don't we take fouls out of basketball? Hey, no defense in Little League basketball because it's safer because you could get an elbow. No picture screens in basketball because you could knock another kid down. I'm telling you, I hear this thing. I hear this about, we're worried about concussions and all of this, James. So why do we have sports called UFC, right? Isn't that what it is? MMA and boxing. Because the whole concept of those sports are to what? Either give your opponent a concussion.
Basically to pulverize you.
Yeah, give them a concussion or virtually put them on the verge of injury or whatever. But they don't. Okay. Good idea, bad idea. You had something to say, James?
I was going to say, you couldn't get me in a UFC octagon.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we're setting the stage for our higher levels to play, to adopt to the change as well. So they're introducing it in the 3 younger leagues, but the plan is if it goes well, then they're going to introduce it in the higher leagues. So I guess at what point will a kid learn to play football? Are they thinking that this is going to filter up to the point where you can't get in a three-point stance at any level? I mean, when I think about this, when you look at the game of football, it is a physical sport. You're trying to accomplish something that can't be accomplished. And I understand wanting to make the game safer and different things like that. But when you change the fundamentals of how the game is played, I don't get it. I mean, are there really that many kids getting hurt because they put their hand in the dirt? Are they really? Are you really gonna? I mean, did someone do a study that said kids are getting hurt now? Now they're not getting hurt because of headshots, James. They're getting hurt because they put their hand in the dirt. Well, my daughter is a senior this year, and she didn't play basketball this year, but she actually had more concussions playing basketball than I had playing football. Did you hear that, James? My daughter actually suffered from more concussions playing basketball than I did playing football. But no one is trying to. I'm telling you, football brings money, and I'm not saying that there's not CTE. I think Ryan called it a convenient sample size. Everybody that they test for CTE seems to have CTE, but they only test people who they think have CTE. And I know this Pop Warner thing isn't just CTE, but that's what started this whole thing. And I'm not saying CTE isn't serious. It doesn't need to be taken into consideration. But if you only test those who you think have it, it's like testing the person who you think died from cancer because of what you know, and then you find out they died from cancer. But there's a lot of other people who could have potentially died of cancer that you didn't know had cancer. So you didn't test them to see if they had cancer. If you have the symptoms of CTE and you test for CTE, it's probably going to be valid. But what about all the people who died, who played the game, who didn't have CTE? It's crazy to me what's happened. I don't know where it's going to end up. I don't know where it's going to go. But when you start making changes like this, the game we love that we call football may very well be on its way out. And doctors love things that'll get them more research and more research dollars. Okay? They love those types of things. And so my question is, because if they're really worried about CTE as a whole, they would be attacking, going after all sports that lead to concussions. Girls soccer, which has a higher rate of probably concussions and head injuries than football does. Basketball has elbows to the head. They have flagrant fouls, but no one's talking about the concussions there. You got hockey. Not trying to hurt you, Marquise. Good luck up there in Nashville. And don't want to put your sport in jeopardy. But hockey, think about hockey. The best part about hockey, if you're not a big hockey fan, is the fights and the blows to the head. But no one's after that. They're after the big money sport that gets them big money dollars in research. There's a lot of doctors who have made a lot of money because of CTE. Let's just be real. Okay? CTE needs to be examined. Head injuries need to be examined. But I'm telling you, this is crazy. Pat, we're going to hold you over to the break. I want to talk about Pop Warner CTE. If you just joined the Blitz, good idea, bad idea segment with Pop Warner Football, the longest running youth organization when it comes to football, has decided that there will no longer be three-point stance. By moving away from three-point stance, our youngest levels we are changing how players are introduced to the sport and how they learn to play the game. I thought that's what flag football was for. You teach them the fundamentals of football without the physical. Why don't we now start putting pads on kids, but we still play two-hand touch? No tackling. No tackling. I mean, that's another way to learn the fundamentals of the game. What are your thoughts? 205-342-99. I shouldn't make that Hold on. I shouldn't have made that recommendation. Somebody out there listening will probably, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's take flag football and traditional football and combine it. Let's have the pads and the physicality, but let's not. 205-342-9904. Good idea, bad idea. Pop Warner going away from the three-point stance. Will it help kids be safer? Probably in the short run, but what will be the impact when they step up to play against 11 and 12, 14 and 15, 16 and 17-year-old kids who've played real football? Coming back on the other side, you're talking to the Blitz right here on Tide 102.9 and 100.9. To the Blitz, I think James giving us a little jeopardy there. Is football in jeopardy? Is the sport we love to talk about right here on the Blitz, is it in greater jeopardy than ever? Or is the Pop Warner decision legit to get rid of the three-point stance in the younger age with a plan to move it up to the older ages? And I would assume, I don't even know how old Pop Warner goes, but I think it goes up somewhere to age 14 or 15, maybe to like through middle school as an option to play. Check that out for me, James, if you can find out what's their age level. But I know at least it goes to 11 and 12. But is it a money grab? Is it a way to pull back some of the kids who are playing flag football now, to pull them back over to the tackle game? But if you're going to take out the three-point stance, where does it stop? Where does it stop? You know, Kevin Smith, you just said not the leagues in Birmingham, a post on Facebook. Are you referring to the leagues in Birmingham don't play, they're not going to get rid of the three-point stance, or they don't go to age 13, 14, 15? Clarify that answer. While you do that, let's get Pat in. Pat, you're in with the Blitz, man. What's on your mind?
Good morning, James. Martin, I'm sorry. Hey, this is a bad mistake. And the reason being, let's talk about number one, baseball, Dizzy Dean, Dixie Youth, Little League. My question is, hey, Pop Warner, how many different kinds of Pee Wee football, and I'm going to call it all Pee Wee football, anything that's not high school. What all kinds of Pee Wee football are Pop Warner? And unless all of them are the same thing, these kids are going to have a tremendous disadvantage. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is you're going to make it safer. Well, I don't know that it's safer. To me, a lot of times, when the way I played the game and the way I was taught to play the game, you don't stand around, okay? And part of teaching you how to do that was to get you to get in your stance and fire off. What it does was, when you're taught properly, Pat, is it teaches you to keep your feet with the right base, your butt down, your chest out, and your head up, okay? And when you lift your hand, you're coming up with leverage, okay? You're stepping and everything with leverage. Now, once I've learned how to play with leverage like that, I can now modify that stance to put my hands on my legs, but I've been taught now how to stay low. If I start off, the natural human tendency is to raise up, right?
Yes.
And if I'm in a modified stance, and that's where I'm starting from, to me, you're going to have a much harder time teaching a kid to keep his feet right, his butt down, his chest up, and everything when he's already in that position, because his first natural thing is going to be to stand up. because he's never played it before. And so I think you're going to put kids, even within that league, into a problem. But if you go from Pop Warner to another division of football that's not Pop Warner, and you're an 11-year-old, you're going to think you've played football. And the first time you get out there and you don't know how to get in a three-point stance, and that defensive guy has been getting in a three-point stance for the last 2 years, he's going to fire off and hit you so hard right square in the middle of your chest, you're going to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. And now you won't even know how to get the proper leverage to get lower. Low man wins in football. Low man with good stance and good butt and good power, Pat, wins every time in football.
Yeah, Martin, that the worst that you've seen my boys, that my oldest one, he's 6'4", but when he was in the 6th grade, the worst play that I've ever seen him when he actually hurt somebody really bad, he was playing as a stand-up defensive end, and he rushed the quarterback, and the quarterback jumped up to throw the pass, and he hit that boy so hard in the solar plex, he picked him up. The boy went up in the air and came straight down on his head. They carried him off the field.
But
we prayed and prayed and prayed for that poor boy.
But that part's not changing.
Exactly. Then that's my point. It's not in a three-point stance. It's not where you're going to hurt people.
Well, in the offensive lineman, it is, though. See, that's the problem. This is not going to impact defensive backs or outside linebackers or anything. Blah, blah, blah. This is going to hurt the offensive lineman. That's who this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt offensive linemen, defensive linemen. And to me, most of the time at that age, those kids, most defensive players,
I don't know any of them that's gotten hurt like that. They've gotten hurt from a running back running through the line with his head down, or like you said, our defensive, the skill positions are the only positions that get hurt really bad in football.
So, anyway.
Do you not agree? But however, basketball, my boys have been hurt worse playing basketball and more concussions from basketball. My baby boy broke 6 bones of other players playing soccer.
Yeah.
Because he was bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
And that it has to do with, these little skinny kids because they play in soccer because they can't play other sports or whatever. But soccer's good to develop other sports. I thoroughly agree.
Yeah.
But this is ridiculous about the 3-point stance because, hey, it isn't linemen that's hurting one another. They are concussion every once in a while.
Right.
Hey, but linemen don't hurt one another very rare.
Especially in the little league kids. I appreciate you, man.
All right, thank you, Martin. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Now, one of the changes, and I pointed out to Kevin Smith saying, when he coached youth football, his old linemen were always in a 3-point stance because they ran hurry up, no huddle. And that's good to a certain degree. I think that's why we struggle. Okay, let's think about this. Why does Alabama's offensive linemen today look like they should be power drivers? But the reality of it, they can't run block because most of them grew up playing and never learned 3-point stance or proper 3-point stance. And then they're trying to teach them out here at the high school because they ran hurry up, no huddle. I'm telling you, 3-point stances not having 3-point stance is one thing to have a philosophy around the 3-point stance, but to not teach the fundamentals of the game because now a kid, no one knows 3-point stance. But the other side of that is this hurry up, no huddle with the 3-point stance, and these kids don't learn it. That's why you have a guy that looks like he should be able to power drive someone, but he can't get any push because he's not used to putting his hand in the dirt, keeping his butt down, and driving off. He's used to playing backwards. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's just. So
you know what I'm thinking, Martin? We've come such a short period of time in going and basically seeing football almost without a shotgun, especially when it comes to Alabama football, to where you see almost what you're mentioning, almost more of a finesse football, especially from last year.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kevin was pointing out that about the hurry up, no huddle. And the difference is these young kids, if they don't play against the defensive lineman that's coming out of a 3-point stance and they're in a 2-point stance, all of a sudden, when they go against a guy with his hand in the dirt, it will hurt them, impact them in a negative way. So it's just good idea, bad idea. What's your thoughts? I think it's a bad idea to ban 3-point stance. I just think it's a bad idea, and especially as these kids get older and transition. I knew the age range I'd asked earlier about the Pop Warner, according to popwarner.com, ages 5 through 16 and weight consideration also comes into play there. So the weight consideration plus the age range is how they determine the football when it comes to Pop Warner as well. All right, not everybody's meant to play football. And if you wanted to create a safer version of football, you may have to change the sport and call it something other than football. But if you keep tinkering with the game of football, eventually you will not recognize the sport we have. You're just going to get to the point where you won't recognize the sport that we love to watch and play. Unfortunately, we're a gladiator society, and of course that's slowly changing. But and in some ways it needs to change. But we are men, and I know that there's some women out there that love football as well, but and love the physicality of football. But not everything is made for everybody. To me, changing football the way we're changing it, James, would be like saying, you know what, Martin is a really good athlete, and Martin really loves basketball, and I do. I love basketball. So what we're going to do for Martin is we're going to make an 8-foot goal because he needs to be able to windmill dunk. Right? I mean, why are we not doing – if we're wanting to make things better and safer, why don't we have smaller courts for little kids to play basketball? Why do we have little kids playing on virtually the same court as the NBA basketball players on the same height goal? Why don't we just change? Anyway, all right, Super Joe, you're in with the Blitz. What's on your mind, man?
Man, it's like they taking the discipline out of the household. Now they want to interfere with the football. I mean, good grief, take the butt away from popcorn, take the strength out of RC Cola. Good grief.
What you got, man? Good idea, man, bad idea, Super Joe.
Yeah, I said, man, this is getting ridiculous. I mean, they want to take. They're gonna sit up there. They're gonna cause. Man, they're gonna have to start paying the audience. They're gonna have to start paying the audience to start coming to watch games. They're gonna start doing that because I mean,
no. Hey, Super Joe, this is a player grab for Pop Warner.
Yeah,
I believe Pop Warner probably goes, you know what? We've lost a lot of kids to flag football. What can we do to get some of those kids back? So they ain't going to have to pay anybody. All the parents that want their kids to play, this is going to draw a lot of them back. I mean, let's just be real. It's about and this is not meant to be sexist or anything. Men have saturated the game of football. And from the NFL all the way down, especially the NFL, they're trying to grow the market. And that's what you do in business. You try to grow the market. And they're trying to reach more female, I think. And when you look at our demographics today, there's a lot more single moms raising kids, and they're more likely to put their kids in flag football as a whole, not all, as a whole, as well as this appearing to be a safer sport. They will bring more kids to it. I think that's reality.
It's real. Well, you can say reality in a lot of ways, but I just don't want to see the sport get tampered with. But like I said, it is what it is and stuff. But man, I tell you what, hold on one second. Yeah, but I tell you what, I'm gonna say it like this. I just don't like to sell sport tampered with because I can lose interest. When the taste goes out the grape juice, I don't want to drink it no more. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. So Super Joe, I have to get the break here, but this is what I'll say. When it comes to if you want to make football safer, if you want to make the game of football safer, start investing in paying coaches at the earliest stages. I mean, or create some type of system where you get qualified volunteer coaches. All of the people, the John Butler, who's over Pop Warner, I think that's his name. Let me make sure. John Butler, executive director of Pop Warner Little Scholars. If he really wants to make it better, invest, not mandatory, but literally continually invest in the people who are coaching these kids to teach them the proper techniques and how to play the game. That will cut down more on Little League injuries than anything. If you think it's bad now that you got people going out there that don't even know. It used to be a three-point stand, Super Joe, and they didn't even know how to teach proper technique and blocking and tackling then. How much fewer now are you going to – who's going to be able to teach a defensive lineman at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old? How do you play football if you can't put your hand in the dirt?
Yeah, it kind of beats the hay out of me. That's a clean way to say it.
All right, Super Joe, I appreciate your thoughts and comments there, man.
Take care, partner.
Take
Roll
care.
Tide.
Roll Tide.